countdown music still playing in my head. Whatever. Wednesday night, 7 p.m. And it is time for the South Carolina Cannabis Conversation. Let's give it a couple of minutes. Let some folks kind of join us in the room. Found a couple of articles I thought were interesting to discuss this evening. Put it out there and see your thoughts. And click around here and make sure I got the right things on and off. So far, so good. All right. Well, let's see here. We're rolling up on about 2 minutes after. I usually like to kick things off right about then. So, as usual, we'll kind of kick it off with our disclaimer that all of our meetings are an environment of education and awareness and are not an open market for the sale, purchase, or distribution of cannabis. We do not encourage or condone the illegal behavior of any kind. Also, at this time, we usually like to kind of remind you to follow us on our social media. One of these days, I will upgrade this or update this to include our YouTube, which is really should be on there. But follow us on Instagram and or Twitter and or Facebook. But definitely kind of follow us on YouTube for the conversation, and hit that subscribe and hit that notification bell to get a reminder about when we're coming on. Last but not least, I like to kind of mention, don't forget to patronize our supporters, our sponsors. Visit our website at scnormal.org. Click on one of the drop-down menus. I believe it's the About menu, and you will find the click to the sponsors page. And if they're in your area or if they do business online, please do business with them because they help support what we do here. All right. Let me click off this little button and click on a different little button. I see we've got somebody joining us here in the room. Excellent. I want to again welcome everybody who is either in the room with us or going to be joining, or actually welcome to anybody who's watching this as a recording later, which I know some of you all do. It's hard to get here right at 7 o'clock sometimes. Busy schedules, family, stuff like that. Excuse me. Tonight's agenda, going to basically kind of pluck some topics out of the headlines tonight. A few articles I thought were sort of interesting to talk about. Next week, don't forget, is our regular monthly meeting. And so at that point, we'll sort of try and go over what is going on at the federal level with legislation, what's going on at state level, which, again, at this point is not a lot. But there is some election stuff coming up in November, local elections. I think even some Senate elections, runoffs kind of stuff. Anyway, we'll kind of update you on that stuff next week. But this week, we're going to talk about 3 different topics that I found, and we'll share the links with you as we go along. First headline I saw here kind of caught my attention. Arkansas law protecting medical marijuana patients' gun rights officially takes effect. I believe that was the beginning of the month, just yesterday. Another one, another state liberates cannabis, Minnesota. Again, their legalization rules went into effect, laws went into effect yesterday. And last but not least, we'll talk about the article, is it possible to overdose on marijuana? Here's what Georgia residents should know. So, again, I'll share these articles with you as we go along and continue the conversation. But before we do, let me go ahead and throw at you our first trivia question. As you all know, I've been trying to do 3 trivia questions each week. I looked down here the other day and I saw 3 cards sitting here. I don't think we ever did trivia last week. I really don't know. That or I just stacked them right back up again. And that I don't think we did. All right. So anyway, we're going to start with this one. It is a slang category, slang, a 30-point question if you're keeping score. Which common kitchen spice is sometimes sold as marijuana to inexperienced stoners? Would that be oregano, garlic, dried spinach, or paprika? Paprika. Depends on your pronunciation. Slang category, 30-point question. Which common kitchen spice is sometimes sold as marijuana to inexperienced stoners? Oregano, garlic, dried spinach, or paprika? Again, if your business would like to sponsor our trivia questions, contact us through our website, scnormal.org. We will mention your business at this point in our segment. But let me kind of take a quick peek, see if anybody's taken a guess in our comment section. Not seeing any guesses on that one. As much as I like the idea of dried spinach, Popeye might try that. Again, the slang category, 30-point question. Which common kitchen spice is sometimes sold as marijuana to inexperienced stoners? Oregano, garlic, dried spinach, or paprika? The answer is oregano. Oregano. Make sure I put this back in the box and don't try and ask the same question again next week. It's been known to happen. All right, let me go ahead and grab this first headline up here for you, and we'll drop it and the link to the article into the comments section. There we go, and I'll share the screen. We'll talk about this article first. There we go. Arkansas law protecting medical marijuana patients' gun rights officially takes effect. This was published yesterday in the Marijuana Moment, written by Kyle Yeager. And basically it starts with a new law officially takes effect in Arkansas on Tuesday to clarify that medical marijuana patients can obtain concealed carry licenses for firearms. And that's one of the biggest things I hear from folks that they really, are concerned about talking about cannabis legislation moving forward, medical legislation moving forward in South Carolina is, if they're going to infringe on my gun rights, well, to hell with it. I'm not going to, get the medical card anyway. I'll just keep getting it the way, whatever. So Arkansas has, officially clarified it that the medical patients can obtain concealed carry licenses. The governor signed the bill in April, just days after it sailed, as they put it, through the legislature with strong majority support. So, again, much like South Carolina, the legislature is very supportive of your Second Amendment gun rights. And this was, again, talking about your getting a concealed carry license for your firearms. And get back to Arkansas. So I found it somewhat interesting. It goes into it a little bit. The newly effective law stipulates that a person's status as a qualified medical cannabis patient in the state cannot be used, quote, in determining whether an applicant is eligible to be issued a license to carry a concealed handgun, unquote. So they can't use the fact that even if they do, if they would know, they can't take that into consideration in issuing your concealed carry permit. State statute also has been amended to clarify that participation in the medical marijuana program does not mean that a person is a chronic or habitual user of a controlled substance. Now that I found interesting, which could otherwise disqualify people from obtaining a concealed carry permit. So again, the state statute has been amended to clarify that being a participant in the medical marijuana program doesn't mean that you're a chronic or habitual controlled substances user. All right. This is Arkansas. Again, have I said that 3 or 4 times? The State Department of Health will be barred from disclosing a person's patient status to the state police as part of any investigation into concealed carry eligibility. While some states have moved from more broadly preserved to more broadly preserve firearm rights for cannabis patients and consumers, the new law signed by Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Republican, is more narrowly tailored to the concealed carry issue. So this is specifically tailored to the concealed carry issue. Next part I found even kind of a little bit more interesting, a little bit interesting. Arkansas does not require that people have a permit for concealed carry. So they don't require you to have a permit for concealed carry in Arkansas. But some Arkansas firearms owners prefer to have one because of the protections it can bestow when traveling in other states, and because the clarity it provides during police encounters. So now that's pretty important. You know how often police encounters can kind of go topsy-turvy, especially if a firearm would be involved. Oops, I smell marijuana. Oh, you have a car, you have a gun. All perfectly legal in Arkansas. But they want, they want the ability to get, so that it clarifies. See, I'm allowed to. And also when traveling. And I know there's a lot of places that do honor your concealed permit from other states. I don't know if they all do, but I know most take it into consideration. But I found that part interesting, that they don't require a concealed carry permit in Arkansas, but that still people want them. They still want to get a concealed carry permit issued by the state so that they can show other government agents, look, this government agency said I'm allowed to. My state said I'm allowed to. My overseers have said we're allowed to. Amendment 98 had language that said no patient's right or privilege should be infringed upon the basis of having medical marijuana. However, this wasn't extended to concealed carry holders, says Representative Aaron, Plinkington, Republican, who sponsored the newly enacted bill. And that's what he told. He told KATV, referring to the state's voter-approved medical cannabis ballot initiative. So apparently Arkansas allows for voters to have, ballot initiatives, and that's how they got medical marijuana for it. I don't recall, but I'm assuming that's what happened. There was an issue and a concern about what the federal law said, he said, but now federal law says that gun rights should not be restricted based on patient status, and so no other prescriptions, whether it would be opioids or others, prohibiting someone from having a concealed carry license. All righty. So anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting. Again, what I kind of thought was interesting is, they don't require them in Arkansas, but the people still wanted to. And again, my viewpoint of it, they wanted to do that so that they could, say, yes, officer, see, I'm allowed, or other. Who else is usually going to question? It's usually law enforcement of some sort. Thoughts, comments, anything on that? I mean, be quite honest with you, I think that's something that really needs to be addressed in South Carolina. My desk is a mess in a moment, so I see it down here at the end. I'm not sure which one this is. But anyway, I know there is some legislation that talks about gun rights in our legislature for cannabis, medical cannabis patients. Although we don't have a medical cannabis bill, so I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure there was there's gun rights one somewhere in there. Don't hold me to that now. I'm second guessing myself. But if medical passes, you know that's going to come up real quick in our legislature. And geez, now that I'm looking at the calendar, we're in August, 2nd of August this year. September, October, November, December. We got 4 more months after this left in the year. So we're less than half a year, just about 2/3 of the way through. Maybe I'm stretching that a little bit. But in that final third, we've got November elections. And that rolls us right up into January, where a few days into January, the second Tuesday of January, I believe it's the 10th or 11th is coming, in 2024, is when the legislature starts again. I would not doubt that, very similar to in the past, Tom Davis is going to jump right on it as session starts and see if he can get some movement on moving this bill right away for medical here in South Carolina. I know we all have mixed feelings of it, and we'll talk about that a little bit more as we kind of get into our next bit, our next, I say bit, but our next subject. So let me drop 2 links for you. I'll give you this one first. Let's see. I'm seeing nothing in the comments at the moment, so I'm going to move on to our next one. And this, I have 2 separate links just because one tells a little bit better story of what the law changes are than the other. Okay. We'll take this one to here. We'll bring that up. We'll drop the link. Boom. There we go. Another state liberates cannabis. Again, this is yesterday's news, and literally yesterday. This article came out, published by NORML yesterday. Another state liberates cannabis. Can you smell it? I'll get the other one here in a second. Cannabis freedom has come to the land of 10,000 lakes. The possession and home cultivation of marijuana is now legal for Minnesotans. But that's not all. Officials are also taking steps to expunge tens of thousands of marijuana-related convictions. That means going forward, Minnesotans will no longer bear the stigma of a prior marijuana arrest and the lost opportunities associated with it. I mean, that stuff's huge. Legislation's out there, to deschedule at the federal level, and I think there's the one bill that had no social equities like this, or included, but that stuff is huge because it's a saddle on your back, it's a yoke around your neck. To have a simple cannabis arrest on your record can really kind of take away opportunities from you. So for those keeping score at home, Minnesota is the 23rd state to legalize marijuana for adults, and it is the 3rd to do so this year, in 2023. It also joins a growing list of states that have moved to vacate the records of those with past convictions. Nationwide, nearly 2 million Americans have now had their marijuana-related convictions expunged, and we're just getting started, they say. All right, I think the rest of this kind of goes into a little, what's the word? Donation, shopping, or asking. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at this article from a couple days before. Again, let me drop the link down here. Copy, paste. There we go. All right. Minnesota adult use law takes effect. Now, this one came out a couple of days ago, and it was talking about legislation permitting adults to possess and home cultivate personal use quantities of cannabis takes effect on Tuesday, August 21st. August 1st. I get 21st. So that was yesterday. Went into effect. That much information I got from the other article. So I was curious a little bit about their home cultivation. So I went and did another look or followed another link. Beginning that day, those aged 21 or older may legally possess in public up to 2 ounces of cannabis flower and or 8 grams of cannabis concentrates. Adults may also home cultivate up to 4 mature plants in the private residence and store up to 2 pounds of cannabis flowers. Start. But yeah, I thought that was, I'm watching in Pennsylvania a little bit because that's where I was born and raised. And I know it's been probably over a year now. I happened to be on a call or a meeting with Montgomery County NORML or Philadelphia NORML, one of those, like Delaware County. Anyway, whichever it was. And they were basically looking to try and get a home grow ordinance in there in the city of Philadelphia. What's Philadelphia? In the city of Philadelphia. And now I believe there is some legislation moving forward in Pennsylvania for home grow, but I'm not seeing that at this moment. But yeah, I thought that was pretty exciting. That and the fact you can store up to 2 pounds of cannabis. Here in South Carolina, more than an ounce is going to get you for a higher charge. You've got your less than an ounce and more than an ounce. And if you've got it separated into multiple baggies, then it's all of a sudden, with intent to sell, which I think is ridiculous. Because I always like to talk about the wine connoisseurs, the wine collectors, and they have like all these bottles of freaking wine. And they're not drinking them all, but they have them because one day they will want to open this one or that one, or, that kind of thing. And I think it'd be great to have, little containers of a little bit of each strain of cannabis that I've ever had stored away somewhere. A couple of grams here, a couple of grams there of each, and that can add up to 2 pounds after a while. But yeah, I like to liken it to the wine cellar. Why can't you have your cannabis collection, your cannabis cellar type of thing? 2 pounds is pretty significant. I mean, it would probably take a little while to gather up that much for just a personal collection, I would think, for somebody not growing 4 mature plants. Mind you, I think that's what that's talking about too, is they're maybe expecting you to harvest and then, if you're really good at growing, you're getting a pound of plant, you've allowed 4 mature plants, or you don't go through it, but by the next grow, and the next thing you know, you've got, hopefully they'll work on that. And who's going to be coming and weighing it, I don't know. But I found it all kind of interesting. So you can have 4 mature plants. I've seen more on virtually. I've never been one. Some of these little grow tents and stuff, and people grow some pretty good crops in those kind of environments. So, I don't know how much they harvest, what kind of quantities are harvested and stuff like that. Oh, hey, there we go. I didn't even notice here. I'm rambling on, but Joey, come on in. Hey, Joey, nice to see you. And Joey says, hello, everyone. Now, All right, let me kind of keep babbling here. I don't know these kind of things because, like I said, I don't have a grow. I wouldn't know where to start. Um, since I had attempted to grow, everything's changed with LED lighting, and that's been a number of years, a long time. So, but thought that was great. And Paul Armentano from National NORML, Deputy Director, says nearly half of all Americans now reside in a jurisdiction where the adult use of cannabis is legal. I'm going to kind of sit back, Nearly half of all Americans now reside in a jurisdiction where the adult use of cannabis, not just medical use, adult use. Nearly half of all Americans. What did we say? 23 states now. To date, no state has moved to either curtail or repeal these legalization laws. That's because these policies are working largely as voters and lawmakers intended, and they are clearly preferable to a criminal marijuana prohibition. So I don't really think I need to read through all of it here with you. I'll let you all, since I gave you the link, take a look at the rest of it. I don't think there's anything else I really wanted to hit on. Oh, yeah, I'm going to let you kind of take a look at that one on your own after this. Excuse me. Let me turn off that share here. That's exciting, though. I mean, another state moving forward. I'll give a little bit of a whine here or something, but sometimes I get a little discouraged at times, especially when I have people telling me, it's just never going to happen in South Carolina. It's not. I'm moving because of it. Or I have moved, or whatever. You're just fight. And I mean, mind you, it is a frustrating fight in South Carolina to try and let not only the legislators, but a lot of the people know that it's not this boogeyman. I probably have said it on here too much, but I've said it before, I know, on here. I hear quite often that people have moved. They've moved out of the state. It's really, really difficult to find support, vocal support, active support for marijuana law reform efforts in the state, because the people that are probably really passionate about it have already left the state because you're pretty sure that South Carolina is going to be last. And then the ones that are still passionate about it and haven't had the luxury of leaving the state don't want to be overly vocal about it because they're afraid of maybe repercussions from their community, their family, their job, whatever the case may be. And then there's a lot of people who just say, well, it doesn't affect me. I don't use cannabis. It doesn't affect me. I mean, and that's a great line until it does. Until maybe your kid gets caught with cannabis. That kind of thing. And then all of a sudden now it's affected you. And we're going to talk about that just in a couple of minutes here when we get into the next article, because they make one good point that I see anyway. But before we roll too much further, I see we're already at about 7:30. We're going to hit another one of these questions that I have sitting here again. I don't think I asked them last week. That first one didn't sound familiar at all. I think I just took them out last week and never asked them. So this week we're actually going to get to our cannabis questions or trivia questions here before we get to our last article of the evening. This one is a category is culture. This is a 50-point question. Culture, 50-point question. This is the only country where medical cannabis is integrated within the national health care system. Is that Israel, Sweden, Copenhagen, or Finland? If I didn't have the answer right here in front of me, I'd have a hard time being sure of that one. It's interesting. Question culture, 50-point question, category culture. There we go. This is the only country where medical cannabis is integrated within the national healthcare system. Is it Israel, Sweden, Copenhagen, or Finland? Again, I'll mention it real quick. If you'd like to sponsor our trivia questions, please contact me through our website, scnormal.org, and contact me through the contact page. All right, one last time, and we'll give you the answer here. Category culture, 50-point question. No answers in the chat here. This is the only country where medical cannabis is integrated within the national healthcare system. Is it Israel, Sweden, Copenhagen, or Finland? And the answer to that one is Israel. Matter of fact, Israel's done a lot of research in cannabis over the decades. I think the father of cannabis, I forget his name, Dr. Horrible of me not to know, recently passed in the past, I want to say less than a year. And believe it or not, a lot of that research has been funded through US dollars, but at least I believe so. But that is our second trivia question for tonight. All right, I do have one other article I want to kind of talk about this evening. I thought this one was, I saw the headline. I just had to share the headline if nothing else. Let me drop it here in the chat with a link to the story. There it is. Okay. I don't know why they needed all that extra junk in there. Oh, I misread that anyway. No, you can't overdose on marijuana. Here are the side effects Georgia residents should know about. I read it as you can overdose on marijuana, or can you overdose on marijuana? I must have misread it, that part somewhat. But even still, the fact that they kind of have the word overdose in the, let me share this on screen with you. Sorry about that. There it is. No, you can't overdose on marijuana. Here are the side effects Georgia residents should know about. So I thought this was kind of an interesting one because, just using the word overdose, marijuana, in the headline, somebody's going to look at that and, deadly marijuana stuff. So, although medical marijuana in the form of low THC oil is legal in Georgia with a registry card, marijuana in all other forms is illegal in the Peach State. Low THC oil? They're calling this medical marijuana? Okay, I'm dumbfounded right there to begin with. What are they letting like low THC CBD or something be medical marijuana in Georgia? If you know, drop that in the chat for me. However, the illegal possession and the use of the drug still occurs in high volumes within the state. Medical cannabis in Georgia. What the heck happened to the? Oh, I don't want to look at that. According to the Georgia Cannabis Information System, Georgia ranks 6th in the country for marijuana arrests and drug charges. Where is South Carolina? I thought we were up there pretty high. That one's not going to tell me. In a 2021 study, here's what I was interested in. I kind of referred to in the last story. In a 2021 study, 35.4% of U.S. young adults aged 18 to 25, around 11 million people, reported using marijuana in the past year. That is pretty much the same age group that law enforcement targets. I mean, more people in that age group are arrested for simple cannabis possession than any other age group. And they're targeted for it. And you know, I don't think anybody should be arrested for simple cannabis. That's, again, why we do what we do here. Matter of fact, I should probably share this real quick just to show you. Let's see where I can find this. We have some new business cards coming. On one side, it's printed, nobody should be arrested for simple cannabis possession. And let's see if I can show you the other side. Our QR code to our kind of, it's not Linktree, it's called Link, L-A-N-Q. But anyway, it's sort of like a link map, so you can, if we happen to see you out and about, we can hand you one of those. You can follow that QR code and pretty much do anything. Contact us, join up, sign up for our newsletter, find out what our coming events are, all that kind of stuff. And then we, again, wanted to not waste the backside of it or the other side of it. And we are going to be pushing forward with a decriminalization effort moving forward here. Like I've been saying for years, if we have to do it town by town, city by city, now that COVID restrictions are off of us and such like that, I think it's time to get back at it and actually start moving forward with that. So, utilizing the blurb of no one should be arrested for simple cannabis possession. So if it falls upside down, it's still giving a message. Those are our new cards coming. And I'm sort of glad I brought that up. I'll get back to the story in just a second. But let me stop our share. Between the new cards, and I think I mentioned to you a week or 3 or 7 ago, we got a whole bunch of new stickers in. So I am starting to kind of come up with a, I almost want to say an advocate action pack or something like that. So where y'all out there can help us spread the word of our existence, if nothing else. There's so many times I'll talk to people and they go, oh, geez, I didn't even know there was a NORML in South Carolina. You know, so this is a grassroots effort. We know it's going to have to be a grassroots effort to move the decriminalization forward. Although there has been repeatedly legislation to decrim in our state legislature, it never moves forward. It doesn't get out of committee. It doesn't even get acknowledged by these committees. And they're sort of cookie cutter bills. I think they throw these cookie cutter bills out there because they know they're not going to go anywhere. I don't know if it was this session or last session. There was like 3 of them. Wording was almost identical. You know, we need a real decrim in South Carolina to start protecting these young people 18 to 25 years old in our state, because I believe we're like the 2nd largest arrest record state, arrest number state. We're tied for 2nd. I forget. I know that Texas was bigger in their underground market, their black market. I think they were like 8.8 million, and we're our billion, and ours is only like 1.1 billion or something like that estimated underground cannabis market. So I would assume, you know, again, Texas, much larger state, much larger population, is ranking higher in those arrest records as well. So we might not be second, but I know we're up there pretty well here in South Carolina. And those numbers have fluctuated over the years. Since I've been at this since 2017, I believe the low I've seen is about 15,000 simple cannabis possession arrests in the state per year. Um, in those earlier years, went up as high as I believe about 36,000 simple cannabis possession arrests a few years back. And over the past couple of years, it's kind of come back down a little. I don't remember if it's down to 18,000 ish or still in the 20s, but yeah, it peaked pretty good a couple of years back, and I'm seeing new activity. So who knows? Maybe this year they're going to kind of ramp back up again, and keep fighting against cannabis consumers. So anyway, that was my connection to that other story, talking about the ages of people and the expungements and stuff. Because what happens a lot in expungements, I mean, you're talking young people, high school, just out of high school, college. Now they want to get student loans, trying to and improve themselves, get an education. No, you need maybe a little hand up for some housing. No housing assistance. Yeah, I mean, the one thing that drives me crazy, and this is stuff you don't hear about in a lot of the reports. I mentioned it actually in an interview a few weeks ago to somebody, an off the record interview. But I've been called a number of times by young moms or moms to be who have been under the scrutiny of Child Protective Services, and they've tested positive for cannabis. And in the cases that I've been contacted about, he says, I was just using these, CBD products that I bought legally down the street here at, such and such CBD shop, and it's cannabis. And their test can't tell, is it a little cannabis, is it a lot, a little THC, a lot of THC? It's just, is it THC or not? I mean, I fibbed on that a little bit. Yes, they can tell concentrations. They can tell if there's a little or a lot in you. But again, if you're using cannabis on a regular basis, it builds up in your system, and yes, it could keep you from getting a job. It could have you lose a job. Uh, just the fact that if you get arrested and you go to jail for a couple of days, or God forbid, here in South Carolina, you could go for 30 days. And I've had a couple of people tell me they have, for things as simple as a seed in an ashtray or a little brown piece of stained, roach paper, done 30 days in prison. Do you think your job's going to be held for you when you get back? Until you get back? In most cases, probably not. How about, they got to say, oh, well, don't worry about your rent since you lost your job. No, don't worry about it. That ain't going to happen. They really, it's not just, for some people, it's not just, oh, I have to pay a couple $100 fine. It's, they do some time, they lose their job, they lose their, heck, maybe they couldn't make their car payments, so they could lose their transportation. There's a lot that people can potentially lose on a simple cannabis arrest. And it's absolutely ridiculous. So anyway, that's my rant on that at the moment. So sorry if I sidetracked a little bit too much. I do want to get back to that article we were talking about. Oh, there's where I read it. Let me kind of bring that back up again. Share screen, the window, that one there. That's where I was getting it. The question, can you overdose on weed? I saw that and I'm like, oh, come on. Are you just trying to get attention here? What's going on? I was really seriously going to think that they're going to say yes as I looked at it. According to the National Institute for Drug Abuse, the NIDA, which you hear me diss the NIDA quite often as government propaganda machine, but according to the NIDA, an overdose occurs when the person uses enough of a drug or the drug to produce life-threatening symptoms or death. There are no reports of teens or adults dying from marijuana alone. So that's actually included in the quote. There are no reports of teens or adults dying from marijuana alone. Um, you'll see memes quite often about that out there on social media. Um, how do you die from marijuana? You need a bale of it to fall on you, or blah 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 blah. But the NIDA does note, however, some strong and troublesome effects of using marijuana. Here are some examples. Short-term effects, altered senses, for example, seeing brighter colors, altered sense of time, changes in mood. Now, just in these first couple of them, I'm thinking there's probably other things that hold your breath too long. Impaired body movement. I guess if you're into couch. Difficulty with thinking and problem solving. Now that one's kind of interesting because I mean it could well be. I find myself undiagnosed, sort of easily distracted, and I think cannabis helps me think better and resolve issues better. So I guess that's again potential effects. It's not saying that happens to everybody. Where was I? Oh, impaired memory. Come on, that was a joke, people. Impaired memory. Where was I? Hallucinations when taken in high doses. I don't know. Put a 1 in the comments if you've ever hallucinated from cannabis. Let me see those ones down there. Delusions when taken in high doses. Again, I know a fair number of people that seem delusional without cannabis. And then last on their short-term list, psychosis. Psychosis risk is highest with regular use of high-potency marijuana. And again, that's been addressed a number of times by NORML. If you go over to their blog or over to their fact sheets, the prominence or prevalence, I guess is the right word I'm looking for, of psychosis amongst regular cannabis users is not different or much different from the general population of the world, in general terms. So, what was the phrase I heard? Not necessary. What is something like not all people with psychosis use cannabis? No, not all people who use cannabis have psychosis, but some people with psychosis could use cannabis, something like that. Long-term effects, according to the NIDA, long-term effects are associated with brain development. It goes in and talks about that. I know I've heard about that stuff, but don't look into it much because my brain ain't going to develop any more than it is. I don't have any youngsters in my household. And we do not recommend that young people use cannabis without the recommendation of a licensed healthcare provider. So when people get using marijuana, I'm not even going to go into all that at the moment. Other physical and medical effects, breathing problems. There's been some good studies. Again, go to the fact sheets at NORML about smoking and cannabis versus smoking and tobacco. But as an ex-tobacco smoker and a current cannabis smoker, even though I smoke through water in a bong, you can hear I get a little phlegmish, a little coughing. I wouldn't doubt that some of my smoking can be related to those breathing issues. Increased heart rate. I haven't experienced that, but it can happen. Intense nausea and vomiting. That, I think, is kind of what they talk about when they're talking about that cannabis. Oh, how did I forget this one? The cannabis vomiting syndrome. Something like that. where they say taking like real high dosages of concentrates has caused people to go into the hospital with these, nausea and vomiting, and that, the only way the place they're comfortable is a hot shower and blah blah blah. We've talked about that stuff on the program before, so I think that's what they're sort of referring to there. Temporary hallucinations. Again, I think they're talking somebody either never smoked before or smoking very high concentrations. Temporary paranoia. I think most paranoia comes from the fact that we know it's illegal in some places and the man can come for you. Anxiety and depression. Again, reports I hear is that it can often help people with anxiety and depression. So, and then worsening symptoms in patients with schizophrenia. And again, you know, if your doctor says it's probably not a good idea for you to use cannabis because of severe mental disorders that already have symptoms such as hallucination, paranoia, and disorganized thinking, cannabis probably may not be right for you. Please talk with your doctor. All right, I don't know. There we go. So that's kind of how they played the story. I what is this? The Telegraph, part of the McClatchy Media Network. I'm guessing this is a good, a pretty good hometown Georgia paper. But I like that. No, you can't overdose on marijuana. But then they ask the question, can you overdose on weed? And then they throw all these like, potential possible side effects, especially if you're using huge amounts. Thought it was kind of what's the word I'm looking for? A sensationalized article. But, there you go. You go over to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, and they talk about some of that same information here. Actually, they give you a bit more of the numbers as well. But yeah, a fair amount of young people are using cannabis, and that is not what we recommend. Interestingly, and I don't know how this relates to cannabis or not, but I've been listening to or hearing a little bit about some of the research being done with psychedelics, with mushrooms, probably more specifically than LSD. LSD kind of more old school. But using psychedelics in different types of mental health therapies, PTSD, and actually talking about how they can kind of grow new pathways and interconnect parts of our brains that like didn't connect before. And I don't know. It sounds kind of intriguing that these things can sort of. You've got to wonder if experiencing cannabis at some point can also benefit the young brain. I'd like to see a little bit of research into that at some point. Anyway, that's kind of all I got. And boy, I looked up and I see we're just about at the end of our hour. So I'm going to try and wrap it up here real quick. I'm going to take this screen share away. Let you know that we've got just a couple of things on the calendar at the moment. We have Friday night, this Friday, here again in the Charleston area on James Island, reggae night at James Island County Park. I haven't really double checked the weather, but I'm guessing it's going to be hot, pretty much as it's been. Let me take a quick peek. Actually, I did look the other day at this. Friday. High at 86 with a couple of heavy thunderstorms. They can bring some flash flooding. Now, we'll have to see, at that particular time of day. Last one I did miss, I must admit. I, mentioned that we would be there. And at the last minute, I just I couldn't. It was so hot. I just had no energy to go. So I'm going to try and set myself up a little bit better for it this Friday. If you get a chance, come on out and see us there. Sit with us. Try and spread the message with us. And beyond that, oh, there's something else. I have to go and look at our coming events page myself. So I know there's something scheduled at the Bohemian Bola Market for a cancer fundraiser, but I think that's in like October or September maybe. And we are talking about, and haven't gotten it planned out yet, and I'm not going to promise this one, but we are talking about potentially doing a kind of a covered dish, bring your own. I can't believe I still have that on there. A covered dish type of thing, picnic at Wanamaker Park in North Charleston at one of the covered shelters in their park system there. So kind of keep an eye out for that. I've been talking about that one on and off. We just haven't picked a date. And like I said, the board's been crazy busy. I'm having a hard time getting them together to schedule and do a lot of anything right now because they're doing a whole bunch of life. And I've been real busy myself as well. After doing this for 6+ years, I've accumulated some stuff for NORML, and I finally have to get it out of my house. So I don't know if you've kind of noticed it all. I posted, I think, somewhere, probably on my personal page. We're putting together a little 4x6 shed, and kind of now I realize I need a storage rack to put some of the totes and stuff in. And we're getting that together. So it isn't a real big thing, but it will be the new world headquarters of South Carolina NORML once we get it all assembled and in there. But otherwise, beyond that, like I mentioned at the beginning of the program, next Wednesday is our regular monthly meeting. We will be talking about what's going on, if there's any updates on federal level legislation, what we should be thinking about for state level stuff as we move forward. And our regular follow-up on our monthly meeting. So look forward to that. I look forward to seeing you there. Otherwise, again, as always, don't forget to follow us on social media. Please share and like our posts, so we can kind of get the message out there better. It helps in the algorithms. Beyond that, I'll be back here again next Wednesday night at 7 p.m. and I'll be looking for you. Thanks for joining me. Have a great night now. Goodbye.